There is a universal tendency among mankind to conceive all beings like themselves, to transfer to every object those qualities with which they are familiarly acquainted and of which they are intimately conscious. We find human faces in the moon, armies in the clouds, and by a natural propensity, if not corrected by experience and reflection, ascribe malice or goodwill to everything that hurts or pleases us. David Hume. Hume describes the perceptual, visual, and emotional phenomenon that is anthropomorphism, man's tendency to impart human characteristics or behavior onto things and beings not human. Anthropomorphism shows itself in the human experience through storytelling, religion, mythology, and satire. It is indeed universal, its origins ancient. Yet, every age, every artist, every period had their own motivations for warping reality and making human those things and beings that were not on the outset human to begin with. Anthropomorphic creation is a process. The artist takes elements of reality and melds them, moment by moment, stage by stage, transforming existing realities of the familiar and shaping them into a fantasy that still seems familiar to us, full of one but also the other, while stretching the boundaries of what is and what isn't. The artists who dabbled with this transformative reality warping ranged from playful to moody to imperious. But beneath these many tints and hues of anthropomorphic artistry is the artist himself. The artist who sees man in nature and in objects, an artist who is trying to communicate a certain transformation not only of subject but of vision. The artist becomes, in this sense, a prophet, from the Greek word prophete, meaning spokesman. The artist becomes a prophet in that the artist is a visionary, combining elements of what the world does not see on the outset and turning them into fantastical visual realities, forcing us to look at the familiar in an unfamiliar way. Not with a microscope, not with words, but with imagination as it is transferred onto the printed page. Granville's parrot trims the mane of the lion with delicate care, and his gentle geese await their turn to board a city bus. Or Granville's flower women run from villainous shears. These portrayals are light-hearted and playful, geared towards an audience of children, or the leisure reader. Juste de Montpert, the 17th century Flemish landscape painter, painted a series of landscapes, each possessing the pained, placid, and resolute faces of men hidden within stone and floor. This element of the prophetic becomes the ground on which anthropomorphic imagery is exposed to us. It calls, perhaps, for a new label for these artists. They are anthropomorphizers, and at the same time, they are taking on the voices of the subjects they illustrate to life. They are a breed of visionaries we might label anthropomorphites. There were generally two perspectives from which anthropomorphic imagery came to be expressed. One was from a satirical and entertainment perspective. The other was from a more exploratory and empire celebratory perspective. John Stafford's 17th century portrayal of the four continents personified as women is an example of the more regal form of imparting this human character to the non-humanoid concepts of nation and continent. J.J. Granville's anthropomorphic animals and flowers are examples of a more satirical perspective. While disparately motivated and inspired, the resulting imagery produced by these different approaches still inspires to the mind's eye a certain kind of reaction that the broader term anthropomorphism best covers. But there is something more that is happening when we look at these transformed images. On the one hand, these images show concepts that are familiar to us, but in the forms of animals and objects and plants, all of which are equally familiar to us. How does this transform our understanding of what we see? Some may say it is merely a poetic tint, coloring the less exciting versions found in real life. Others might say that is a way to inspire in us a different set of eyes, hearts and minds, geared towards those animals and things we otherwise would consider lesser beings, or it may tune us into a more divine set of eyes. As it was visually argued in Robert Hooke's Micrographia, where Hooke showed that even the most banal of creatures was, on closer inspection, as marvelous as any other miracle under God's creation. These anthropomorphic images from Granville were merely lenses in which to transform our understanding of what we already saw, visually arguing that all creatures and creations were full of the personality and character and attributes that deserve engagement. But unlike the microscope, anthropomorphic artistry did not require closer inspection. It just required the eye to transform its existing understandings of reality and blend them together in novel ways. The anthropomorphic eye told us to look at the entire world as a reflection of ourselves. The world was filled with living and breathing mirrors of us. We had only to bend our imaginations to see all the forms of us that existed. It almost feels as if Granville, the artist and observer of life forms, is asking us to observe, engage, and interact, and in the process better understand by showing that the world is alive with our humanity. Granville's early 19th century portrayals of flowers as women serve as examples of the novel and the light-hearted dalliances between two realities, two bodies, the bodies of women and the bodies of flowers. The two forces are directed and orchestrated like a kind of music under Granville's brush and becomes at once fantastical and familiar, sympathetic and intriguing. Here we are drawn into a strange blend of a realistic fantasy world where every element incorporated is grounded in the real. Hence, the artistic combining of elements of reality create in us paradoxical sensations of strange familiarity and familiar strangeness. With the Granville flower women, we are stricken by a sense of great feeling and emotion that must reside within their beauty and their terrific delicacy. If the Granville flower women embodied and visualized for us nature, then they possessed more humanity than boorish man and his related tools. To Granville, flowers and animals possessed more poise and flourish than the men who attempted to conquer them, or the man-made tools that attempted to overtake them. These anthropomorphic images from Granville and from Stafford possess especially curious qualities between human and flora, a quality grounded in the need to engage with the subject being anthropomorphized in a time of exploration, in a time of inquiry, in a time of seeking dialogue with worlds that were unfamiliar, intriguing, mysterious, exotic, dangerous, and beautiful. Dialogue with worlds understood and misunderstood. This effort to engage with the unfamiliar, with the mysterious, is, as Hume put it, an expression of man's curiosity to know what and how things have come to be. In seeking the unfamiliar, we impose that with which we are intimately familiar, our very selves.